Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
I'm Chip.
And we're here to bring you some more news straight from us to you. One of the first things I want to address is our show has been generating a lot of controversy and a lot of discussion on Facebook. And our last show especially, people felt that we were uncaring and unfeeling about the commentary that I made. And I want to make it very clear to people, unless we speak specifically about an issue or a person, our commentaries or our statements can be taken very generally. So we're not speaking about a specific issue or person. And for those of you who watched last week and took issue, I appreciate the fact that you made comments. And I appreciate that the show is becoming more interactive with your input. Because remember, we're here for you. And with that, I just want to say thank you for watching and thank you for giving us the feedback because we need it. Right off the top, I want to speak about the impending doom known as the snowstorm. I'm sure that by now everyone's hit Stop and Shop and Shaw's and got their bread and milk because we know we need our bread and milk. But what I want to talk about is snow removal. I made a letter to the editor several years ago about snow removal. You know, we call it snow removal, but you know, it's not really snow removal, it's snow moving. In the Midwest, they have actual snow removal. They have trucks which go along with these huge snow blowers on the front of them and blow the snow into dump trucks. And then they dump the snow into parks, which are not used in the winter. And then that snow melts from there. And it's off the streets. So you're not driving through mounds and mounds of streets of snow plows, of plowed snow. But we spent approximately $250,000 on the last snowstorm, and my street wasn't plowed very well. I mean, before there was any snow on the ground, I had 12 plow trucks go by my house with a blade scraping the black asphalt with sparks flying. I had reports from Oak Grove Avenue with snowplows driving down Oak Grove Avenue on a blacktop with sparks flying, and several other streets and areas throughout the city. I discussed this with Ken Pacheco, who is in charge of Department of Community Maintenance, DCM, we no longer call it DPW, and he says it's kind of hard because that whole area is, I guess, Region 3, and that's the biggest part of the city, so it's the most difficult part to kind of get control of during snow removal process. But the city has gone to a GPS system for all private contractors, which a lot of them are not happy with. And I'm sure they're not, because now they can't sit around all night drinking coffee underneath the overpasses. And this is so that the city can actually keep track of where those plows are at all times and be able to redirect them and send them to other areas which need to be done. Now, I'm hoping that this works. But then again, we don't have the money in the budget to even pay these guys. They haven't even been paid for the last snow plowing, for the last snowstorm. And for those of you that know, 95% of the snow plowing in the city is done by private contractors. And why is that? Because we just don't have enough people in our DCM to actually do it. So it makes it a little bit difficult. They do the best they can, and the main arteries, Robeson Street, Plymouth Avenue, Brighton Avenue, Eastern Avenue, they all kind of stay kind of clear. North Main Street, South Main Street, they all kind of stay pretty clear for ambulances to get by. But it's the side streets which are important to keep the traffic flowing, especially for emergency vehicles. And we need those taken care of too. I mean, what do you think of, Chip? I mean, do you see some problems with a lot of these side streets in the different areas?
Well, I see a lot of problems. The first problem is obviously what you just referred to is 95% of the snow plowing is done by private contractors, and we have to ask why. And the answer to that question is because the manning level is so low in our Department of Public Works, or whatever you want to refer to it now as. But the fact is that these are the side effects of low manning. We reduce the number of the complements of these people, we save that money, and the city uses it for pay raises for other people who are sitting in an office in City Hall or consulting, while we have very low manning in these departments. And what happens? We have more difficulty picking up our trash on time. They are overworked. They do a great job. And what happens when we have a snowstorm? We don't have enough people to put in trucks in city vehicles to reduce the amount of outside contracting we have to do. And then we don't pay the outside contractors, and ultimately they stop plowing, and then we're going to have a catastrophe on our hands.
You know, a lot of these outside contractors say that the city is keeping employment going. And I always say this on a regular basis to everyday people. It is not the city's responsibility to create jobs, okay? Yes, when we need the help, we can contract out, but it's the city's responsibility to perform the services that we need. It's not for us to go out and privatize everything, because what you're gonna finally see is the city privatizing every function. You'll see them privatizing DCM, trash pickup, which we're probably looking at very shortly. You know, our sewer system, our wastewater management is already privatized. So how much more are we going to look at? And you know, it's a dangerous situation. I think a dangerous road to walk down when you're slowly and methodically decreasing departments, whether it be DCM, water department, wastewater management, fire department, police department, whatever department it may be. When you decrease those departments, we have to get the services from somewhere else. And I think that's dangerous. I mean, it's just not there.
No, you know, you're right. And what happens is there was a time where people thought that privatization was the answer to everything. And in some cases, it is effective. But in many, many areas, it is not. It is proven historically with necessary city services to end up being more expensive and being less efficient. They tried it with fire services throughout the country. They tried to privatize fire protection. They found that they were hiring minimum wage people who were untrained, and they didn't do as good a job. The same thing with DPW. You lose control of these people. You hire these big mega companies, and what happens when there's no oversight by the city about the personnel they hire? You have situations where the trash is not picked up properly. You have people working for minimum wage who don't care about the community. All these factors are just something that really they don't look at. They come in with a low ball figure when they privatize it. It always ends up costing the city more, and with service that's nowhere near as good as when the city has oversight.
Yeah, it's funny. It's going to be interesting to look at this year's city council to see how things pan out for each of the departments and what happens to them. Speaking of the city council, it's going to be interesting to see how we handle this little situation. Many of you may remember how the city council regularly and emphatically stated to the mayor that they did not want legal counsel, and they said this directly to legal counsel. I was there for that hearing, or the mayor, to seek out any type of appeal or court action against Dominion to recover the $800,000 or portion of the $1.6 million that the city lost because somebody was on vacation or somebody missed the filing or whatever the excuse was. We've heard several. But again, the mayor being the be-all, end-all, grand Führer type, with the crayon law office on the 6th floor, decided, we don't care what the city council has to say. We're going to go after them. Do you realize that he's spending, and she and the legal counsel is spending your tax dollars? They're not spending the grant money that was supposed to come in. They're spending your tax dollars to get it. So if they spend $200,000 or $300,000 to get this money and don't get it, we're out $200,000 or $300,000. But what do they care? It's not your money. Let's be real. They spent $9,000 for a glass door. But if they do recover a portion of it, let's say they recover $500,000 and it costs them $300,000. We're actually only going to come out of this with $200,000 in our pocket. So again, how did we win? We don't. This is a lose-lose. And Councilor Dan Rigo said, look, it's gone. The ship has sailed. Let's wash our hands of it and move forward. Councilor Pelletier, Councilor Pereira, Councilor Poulin, former Councilor Poulin, said the same thing. We've lost it. Let's move forward. But, you know, to quote the mayor, it's behind us. Let's not look in the rearview mirror because everything is behind us. We're all going to forget about it. And historically, the voters of Fall River always forget about everything. It's sad. You know, he was told, don't do it, but he did it anyways.
Well, I think he did it because he has a new dynamic in the city council. And I think he feels that this council will maybe support it. It is a lose-lose, but what's more important is what, in effect, this is accomplishing. What this is accomplishing is we are putting behind us the fact that the law department was totally incompetent and handled this in a totally unprofessional manner, didn't put anything in writing, and as we said on our last program, normally when you go to an attorney's office, you have to sign an affidavit to get to the bathroom, but our law department decided not to put anything in writing, and they lost $800,000. So now by filing a lawsuit, and if in fact they win, they're not going to say, well, we spent $400,000 to get $600,000 or $800,000. It's going to be, yep, see, we got the money. And they're going to absolve the law department of what they did. This is one of the greatest problems we have in Fall River. We never learn from our mistakes. Our government continues to just move forward and repeat history. The old adage, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well, there has been no censures for the law department. It seems that everybody has stopped talking about their abysmal performance on this issue, and they're going to move forward again because they don't care. It's not their money. It's our money. It's our tax dollars. And when you're paying your increased tax bills and your increased water fees and your increased water meter charges, this is what you're paying for. And if you performed like this where you work, you'd be in the unemployment line. And that's where they should be.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny because a lot of people just got their tax bills and they went to pay them and they saw that new CPA fund on there. But the thing that everyone's forgetting about is they're going to see another tax hike in there because that $10 million bond they all voted in, why I don't know, was approval to raise the taxes. So there's another tax rate increase, and you approved it. Plus you're getting another 2.5 come July 1st. So that's 5% increase, thanks to you. And now the mayor wants to go and spend some more money that we don't have, which is going to result in that money coming out from somewhere else. So we can't help but wonder where this is happening. It's very interesting. I happened to hear Carol Fiola, by the way, seeing that I know we'll be speaking about the state delegation. I happened to hear Carol Fiola speak about the fact that she has been in touch with Washington, lobbying for a SAFER grant for 16 people. Because she knows and the city knows that they can't get any more than that, if that. And she's going to do everything possible, and she is adamant that the mayor and the city council will do everything possible to see that that SAFER grant comes through and that they will be able to adequately fund the fire department, regardless of the outcome. Well, I have to say, thanks for spending your time that way. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but the reality be known, if you look at the SAFER grant rules, regulations, and how it's done, and you know, I'm sure Chip will be more than happy to explain it to you, Representative Fiola, we don't qualify for a SAFER grant. We just don't do it because we have used the SAFER grant not to supplement our budget, but to keep it afloat. We have used it to fund our department, and it's not supposed to be that way. And by laying off 14 people and then asking for 16, it doesn't work that way. I mean, it's fruitless for everyone to be doing this, but you have to all make yourself look good. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, what's even more interesting is their total, the total lack of looking at the numbers. Number one, the SAFER grant you have to have a complement of 200 plus. If they lose the 79 people who are currently on the SAFER grant, they're going to be down to about 141. So they won't qualify. But let's just say that through the machinations of our public officials, that they get a waiver and we get 16 people. What they're not going to tell you is that's an increase of 2, not 16, because they reduced 14 firefighters in this year's budget that were funded with city money. So again, we're attempting to fund the fire department with federal money. They removed 14 members from the fire department. In the 2013 fiscal budget, there were 98 firefighters. In the 2014 fiscal budget, not funded by the SAFER grant, I will clarify that, 98 that were funded by city money. In the 2014 fiscal budget, there are 84. Last time I checked, 84 and 14 was 98. So they reduced the number of firefighters they were paying for by 14 people. And now they're trying to tout themselves and saying we're working to get people back on the job. And again, it's not true. They're getting 2 people back on the job, and they're funding the 14 jobs they eliminated with federal money. So again, it's absolute crap.
Seems to be a lot of crap flowing around in the city, and they told us we were full of it. I think the city needs an enema. And speaking of crap, our state delegation seems to be having a fun time with walking away with a lot of state money, and also discussing the possibility of getting that extra money they're walking away with, legally mind you, into their pension plans. I mean, how much are they walking away with, Chip? I mean, I know you've got the dollar figures there, and I know you got the biggest fundraiser toker here.
Yeah, well, before we begin with some of these numbers, let's remember this. This is the state delegation that is trying to take pensions away from people who've worked their entire lives in public safety and for the city, trying to limit pensions, trying to always attack the pension system, always trying to reduce increases in the minimum wage for the average worker. Yet, what a lot of people don't know is they get per diem when they live outside of the greater Boston area. And these statistics, so they don't say this is from a whisper campaign, this came from an article by Bob Katzen and from the Beacon Hill Roll Call. And it says that our newest rep, Representative Alan Silver, got $4,176 in per diem, which they're entitled to, and which, by the way, they're trying to include in their pensions, which, of course, their pension system doesn't get attacked. It gets increased. But the fact is, the reason I'm saying this is Representative Sylvia took $4,176 away, and he's a fairly new rep. Yet Representative Paul Schmid, who has been a rep longer, took no per diem. His number for this year was 0. Representative Markey, 0. Representative Haddad, 0. So we can see that when they come down here and say they're looking out for our money, some of them are and some of them aren't. Now we move on to the Senate. One of my favorite places, to Senator Rodrick's, who, by the way, was adamantly opposed to raising the minimum wage $1 per year for 3 years up to 11, and he said it would destroy businesses, it would hurt the economy, which again boggles my mind because they haven't figured out yet that if you give poor people money, they actually spend it. When you give rich people money, they buy a new car and invest it in the stock market. They don't go to the Fall River restaurants. If you give Fall River people a few more dollars, they might actually frequent Fall River businesses. But our amazing state delegation and the entire state delegations haven't figured that out yet, that trickle down just doesn't work. You know, you get money, you get the economy stimulated by giving people money who will spend it. And rich people don't spend it, they reinvest it. And we don't get any because they still try to cut the salaries. So Senator Roderick, former Representative Roderick, got $5,625 in per diem, which is ironic since Senator Mark Pacheco from the New Bedford area took $0 and Senator Mark Montigny from New Bedford took $0. So the next time they come around looking for your votes at election time, ask them why. If our other senators can try to hold costs down, and our other reps can try to say, look, we're not gonna take every single penny and then try to stick it in our pension and try to rape and pillage the system while we try to attack you. It might be a very valid question. And if you want the numbers, you can go to that article. You can Google Beacon Hill roll call. The writer of the article on this one also is Bob Katzen. And the headline here is, Roderick collects third highest per diem in the state. Third. Now, how about all those senators who live in Western Mass that have to commute 100 miles to the State House? So obviously, Senator Roderick thinks it's a real inconvenience to go from Westport to Boston.
Must be a real inconvenience to be our state senator, huh?
So it's difficult, and when they talk about how the economy is being strained, CJ, you can comment on that.
And this is how they buy their tax-free booze in New Hampshire, right? And I think that takes us right about to our commentary time.
And it's my turn?
And it's your turn, sir.
Okay. My commentary today is going to be about what CJ opened the show with. I read the Facebook comments, and we appreciate the comments, obviously. And we're glad that people are paying attention, and we're glad we're having people listen. But I will say that CJ's comment, I believe, if you look at that program again, it was a general statement. He talked about the incidence of issues occurring. We have to talk about these things, people. We understand that tragedies are very difficult on a personal level, as they are to everyone. However, we have an obligation to discuss these things, because the only way we're going to fix these things is acknowledge they're happening and having everybody realize that something has to be done before they reach epidemic proportions, like drug use. When we talk about drug use in the schools, drinking in the schools, obviously those things are personal issues to the parents of the people who are involved and the children who are involved. But they're also a community issue. They're also a society issue. We can't allow these things to go unaddressed. We have to bring these to light. We're not trying to hurt anybody here. We're trying to heighten public awareness. And when you heighten public awareness, something is done. When we have school shootings, we can't ignore them. When we have teen suicides, we can't ignore them. When we have teen pregnancies, we can't ignore them. The nature of the society is we have to acknowledge a problem in order to deal with it. There was a Lutheran minister called Nehemiah, and if you go to Boston to the Holocaust area outside of Faneuil Hall, his quote is there. It's a long quote, but I'll give you the short version. He said, "When they came for the trade unionists, I did nothing because I wasn't a trade unionist. When they came for the Catholics, I did nothing because I wasn't a Catholic. When they came for the Jews, I said nothing because I wasn't a Jew. And when they came for me, there was no one left to speak." So if we don't speak out, nothing will be done. So when you listen to our commentary, remember, We're bringing these things to light because we need to. CJ?
Great commentary. That quote's very familiar to a lot of people. And that's why we call our show Spindle City Straight Talk, because we're straight. We're straight to you with our information. And it's very interesting to see. You know, we want your input. We want to hear from you. Our show has been running now for quite a few months, and we're quite happy with it. And we get to address some very interesting issues. Because of the upcoming storm, by the time many of you see this, if you're watching it on cable, the storm will already come and went. The city has put in a parking ban again. They started so early, I'm telling you. And they also have canceled many meetings at City Hall. Jazel Correa's first ordinance meeting, I was looking forward to it tonight, is gone. Oh, the masked bandit is paying us a visit.
I'm getting ready for the storm, CJ.
And I was looking forward to tonight's meeting, though. But we want to hear from you. If you've got any information that we need to hear or you would like us to investigate, please let us know, because we're ready to get into it for you. And one great big announcement I have to make. On Friday, the 17th of January, Chip, myself, and our director, Mario Dorrego, were up at the State House at the governor's request to receive our press credentials. So we have unlimited access now to the governor, to our state representatives and senators, and to the entire State House and all of the department heads and commissioners that we need to get the information for you, to get it live, to get that information accurately as possible. We are now credentialed press. And that's one of the few shows on public access, and I think maybe the only public access show in Massachusetts that has received such a privilege from the governor. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching us, and please continue to watch Spindle City Straight Talk. We're here for you. Thank you very much, and have a great day.